Welcome back to We Love the State. This is episode number 6, where I interview my friend Ben DeJong. He is a member of our state Libertarian Party of Michigan. He recently went to our state convention. It was out in Holland, I believe. And just like Idaho, there were shenanigans afoot. So you might be telling yourself, like, wow, that's the exact same shirt. And he looks equally as sweaty as he did in that episode that we got on Tuesday. Well, I'll tell you why. The intro that I recorded for that episode on Tuesday, I just finished recording that 45 seconds ago. You know? So, I tried, one after the other. Both were recorded on the same day. The intro and outro for both episodes are being recorded like right now. So, after I finished inhaling from after all the talking I did for the last episode's intro, I just hit stop recording and start recording and started doing this. So yeah, and it's I also drained this entire fucking cup of coffee, so I'm like wired. Okay. In this episode, I'm talking to Ben. He's talking about some of the crazy shit that went down at the Michigan Libertarian Party. Super smart guy. Like, you can just tell by the way he talks. He's a super compassionate guy. You know, I really enjoyed talking to him. He had a lot of good things to say, and at the end of the interview, it was really he got me fired up. You know, I was like, I want to fucking do some shit. You know, and so it was nice to know that energy is still alive even after the not so fortunate events of our state convention. But that's what the Mises Caucus is about. You know, that's why I'm proud to be a member of the Mises Caucus, because this is the Ron Paul revolution, but it's not tied to one candidate. You know, it's a movement that stands on its own. You know, that's what's great about it. So I hope you really enjoy this interview. I really enjoyed it. It was, I don't know, good chemistry, you know? So yeah, here is my interview with Ben DeJong. All right, we've got my friend Ben DeJong, as I recently found out, not DeJong, because I'm an idiot. Ben, do you want to introduce yourself? Let everybody know who you are, what you do.
Sure. Ben DeJong, again, very Dutch. So if you see a J in a last name that's capitalized, it's probably pretty Dutch. I am a member of the Michigan Libertarian Party, pretty active in the Mises Caucus. I've been a Libertarian Party member for a while at the national level, but I never really got involved into the state party until it was probably I'm one of those guys. It's like a Dave Smith and Ron Paul convert. I was a big Justin Amash fan for a long time, and I think, you know, when he made the switch over to the Libertarian Party, and, you know, I got more into Tom Woods and Dave Smith, and I was like, well, and obviously we got between the lockdowns and the currency devaluation and everything else that's going on in the world, I'm like, I can't sit back on my hands anymore and just look at the Libertarian Party as almost like entertainment. You know, now I actually need to be doing something about it. So this is probably, I'm maybe a little over a year as an active member in the party for Michigan. And recently, just this last weekend, it was my second state convention that I attended. And I've been photographing. So if anybody's listening who's been to any of the conventions, I'm the tall guy with the big camera. So yeah, it's kind of how I got here and all that fun stuff.
Were you the one that took the picture of all the mecox at the March convention?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's me with the camera.
Okay. All right. So you went to our most recent convention. I wasn't able to make it. I couldn't get the time off of work. So tell me your experience there, what you saw, what happened. Give me the story.
All right. Well, so for some backdrop, shortly after the national convention in Reno, there was a little bit of a fallout in the state party And I'm not exactly sure what the specific catalyst, even if there was one that happened, but our president and our first vice chair resigned approximately 28 days prior to the convention last weekend. Because of that, our second vice chair was basically by default promoted to chair. And as he started looking into, because again, there's not a lot of precedence of having, the chair and vice chair resign at the same time. And so he needed to do a lot of his due diligence into checking into like, what is the precedent for this? How do we move forward in an interim basis? How do we backfill these open positions? There's a lot of questions. And the more he dug, the more questions he found. And this is Andrew Chatterton for those who aren't familiar. But so the more he, like I said, the more he dug, the more he uncovered more questions. He found a set of organizational bylaws for the Party of Michigan that a lot of the people on the Libertarian Executive Committee of Michigan weren't aware of. And then he also found some contradictions in that set of bylaws. And so he started reaching out to some parliamentarians, some other people in the party at the national level, and just trying to search for answers. As that was going on, there were some additional members in the legislation or legislative committee that were not happy with how things turned out in Reno. They sided with the two people that resigned, and they were pretty upset. I don't think there was full understanding of what was going to happen next. I don't believe that, again, Andrew being a member of the Mises Caucus, I think there are some in the state party that view him as an enemy, partly because of the Mises Caucus, partly because of historical bad blood. And there was a few of those moments even at the convention where people approached him that didn't know him very well and said, I've heard a lot of nasty things about you. I'm not seeing it. Are you normally this nice, or are you just hiding it for the convention? And he goes, well, I think I'm pretty run of the mill. I'm sure everybody loses their temper here and there, but yeah, it's he is kind of, I would like, he's a very gentle, soft-spoken guy. So it's very odd to see the animosity that's been thrown at him.
Yeah.
So leading up to the convention, there was some executive sessions that were very contentious. There was a few members from the leadership committee that were, I would say, their behavior was almost, I was shocked. I've been in board meetings. I have a long history in healthcare and especially in healthcare management. So I've been to executive sessions with executives from, large institutions. I've been to board meetings, even contentious board meetings, but nothing like I witnessed for the Libertarian Party of Michigan. The name calling, the swearing, the trashing people, whether it's in Discord or in meetings, just the FU right in the middle of a meeting. Yeah. It's disheartening because we are all supposed to be, moving in the same direction. And unfortunately, it's, I don't want to speak for even Andrew, but it's not like they're, it's like, here's our disagreement. If it was borders, if, I was, pro open borders and so is not, and then I can understand a back and forth and maybe even some temper or some, because again, we're libertarians, we're very passionate, and that's good because it means, we really believe what we talk about. But on the downside is things can get heated. And I think everybody listening can attest to that in conversations within the party just, we're talking politics. So it's why, you don't mix politics, religion, and alcohol. I mean, I can only imagine if there was an open bar at the convention. Uh, it,
I think
yeah,
I know one or two people that have been throwing hands if they were there and fucked up.
yeah. There was a few times where I almost thought that was going to happen. So very contentious. A lot of the individuals that are still on the state board that are very resistant. We're looking at the situation is a power grab, that Andrew was attempting to seize power and retain power inappropriately and by any means necessary. Andrew was attempting to bring on board a parliamentarian and a lawyer, a parliamentarian specifically to deal with some of the discrepancies in our bylaws, et cetera. And the same thing with a lawyer. The parliamentarian, I think, is more about, how do we handle all these resignations? What's the for Robert's rules? What supersedes what moving forward? Andrew's very kind of by the book, and so he wanted to make sure the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And I really appreciate him for doing that, because of the simple fact this is very, it's uncharted territory. Yeah. There's potential for having a lot of eyes on this across all of the states parties. It is a black eye, frankly, for Michigan, and it's not the first black eye that's happened in the last couple of years in the Libertarian Party. I mean, everybody, I think, understands some of the things that have happened prior to the convention as well. And now you can kind of add Michigan to that list of unfortunate shit shows.
Yeah. I mean, so earlier today I recorded another episode with Jason Sorensen from the Idaho Libertarian Party, and they're going through some crazy shit. And my opinion on it is, I think this is ripple effects from the Mises Caucus, not just the takeover, but just the growth and the strength of the Mises Caucus. And I've heard a lot of people say this is like the death rattle of the loser brigade, where the haters or the people who are resistant to change, this is their death rattle. And so it's like, and I said this in the previous episode, but it's like you get a raccoon cornered and they're going to tear your leg off, and I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah. It's like I said before, it's very unfortunate, because we should be, and I think, if we looked at principles and ideas, if, we all laid it all down, we probably only differ on a very sliver of that, of those philosophies. But unfortunately, that sliver and just, the whole approach, or the whole, it's hard to say misconception of that this is a Mises takeover, because those words have been used by, Dave Smith and, et al. And that's unfortunate. I understand why the terminology was kind of embraced, because of so much of the past animosity towards people like Tom Woods, towards, the previous chair, and how he talked about Ron Paul, for example. Yeah. And so it kind of felt like there was a small group that, that were Mises minded, previous to the Mises Caucus being founded, that were really cornered. And, we're kind of almost in a reverse now, where that sector of the party has grown larger than the other. And now we're almost in a role reversal, where it's, and I'm not a big fan of, well, they started this, or they did this to us first, therefore now we are justified in the language of taking over the party. Yeah. And if I was more involved, or if I was, at a higher level, I would have tried to steer that language and tried to find something a little bit more palatable than a Mises takeover. That, there's going to be animosity if you call it that and you treat it that way. And but at this point, it's water under the bridge. It is what it is. So kind of back to the convention, because everything was contested. Andrew was denied funds for the parliamentarian. He was approved 2 hours of the lawyer's time in a board of directors meeting that was private, where some of the board members were able to ask questions. Following that meeting, there was a second agenda that was created by the dissenting voices on the board. And so the first part of the convention, Andrew kind of broke down what's been happening for those who maybe weren't as familiar, because they weren't on Discord as much, or they weren't reading all their emails, but kind of like, how did we get here? And then I think he did a very good job, or he tried to do a very good job of stating what are the rules that we should be following. What are the guidelines as far as, if we're going to change the agenda, there should be, we should have a full notice for that change. That notice was not provided. The body which, elected those board members, after speaking to the lawyer was like, well, that's the body that needs to accept those resignations. And that never happened. Initially, I think everyone was under the impression from the party rules were that the resignations were approved or accepted automatically upon receival from the secretary. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how things were being operated, and it wasn't until Andrew was able to actually talk to the lawyer. And again, if he would have been given the green light to involve a parliamentarian and a lawyer right away, I think we would probably have a lot more information going into the convention than we did. But unfortunately, he had his hands tied. And so he went in with as much information as he could. And he handled it. It was very disruptive. There were members of the party that were cussing him out as he was trying to speak. He attempted to, silence them and tell them to sit down and wait their turn. They refused. I just remember looking around, because I knew that there were some new members to the party, that this was their first convention. And I just was like, it's totally embarrassing. And, you hype up, like, come join the party. This is our time. We're going to move forward. We're going to do this. And they're going to come to this convention with like high hopes, and they're going to see how we treat each other. Mm-hmm. And I'd be surprised if any of them want anything to do with us. Yeah. And it was so unfortunate and kind of ironic, because Justin Moss, he wasn't there, during most of the convention. He did speak Saturday night and then a little bit Sunday morning. And ironically enough, I'm sure he heard a little bit about, what transpired, but yeah. He tried to say, we need to come together. We need to grow the party. But it almost felt like too little too late. Yeah. It's kind of like, dad coming home and the kids were fighting all day and saying, well, you guys got to get along. Meanwhile, they're bloodied and beaten, because they had it out all day. It's like, it's almost, throwing salt on a wound. Was because it was, that you could just, for anybody who's attended, contentious conferences like this, the hair on the back of your neck is just at attention all day. You could just cut the tension with a knife.
Oh yeah. There were a few instances at Reno that really felt like that. Were you were in Reno, right? You weren't?
No, I didn't go to, I wasn't able. I was, already had a photography gig. So
yeah, in that
wasn't able to make that.
There were definitely times like that, because I won't name drop anybody, but there's a certain person on the LEC that well, I'm pretty sure you know who I'm talking about. Me and another Mecock sat right next to him on purpose. And he was one of the louder critics of the Mises Caucus. And me and this other guy, we were talking. He's like, yeah, man, he's just being so negative. And I was like, we should sit right next to him. And he's like, yeah, totally. And so we went in, we just sat next to him the whole time. And dude, some of the votes, especially around the abortion plank, dude, I could just feel the heat radiating off of some of these people, you know, and him especially. And whew, so that hair standing up in the back, I totally understand what you're talking about, because that's how it felt. There were a lot of times at Reno where it really felt like that, where I'm like, some of these people sitting close to me, I mean, they know I'm a Mises guy. Some of these people, like, I felt like, are they gonna like jump over the table and beat my ass or something? Or
Yeah, there, the expression "if looks could kill." Yeah,
oh yeah,
that's the kind of like the darts that you just feel in the back of your head. And yeah, again, it's unfortunate, and there's a part of me that really wants nothing to do with it, because it's not even, you just you don't want anything. It's just divisive, and it's mean spirited, and it's, when it's talking about personal attacks, and it's gross, and it's not something you want to be around. But at this point in time, it's, we don't have a choice. Our nation is I think in one of the worst spots it's ever been.
yeah,
I mean, we have a looming recession that, we can't just flip the switch on the printer and print our way out of it.
yeah,
And that's what, it's either they're going to do that and going to kill the dollar, or they're not going to do that and they're going to tank the economy. And so, that's all, we're talking about these squabbles, party squabbles, while everything crumbles around us. It's like, are we standing on the deck of the Titanic arranging deck chairs, or arguing with people about, which lifeboat they're going to go into? It just seems so petty, and unnecessary. But what, when you have people that are looking at it very emotionally, you can't rationalize with them.
yeah,
You can't pull them aside and just, let's X and O this, like figure out like where are our commonalities, and let's focus on those. It's just there, you just can't rationalize with certain people, and it's unfortunate. I think Andrew handled it extremely well. He was very professional through the whole thing, and he did come to, a suggestion that was taken. It was, again, very big for him to do this, but he said, he was willing to resign as a convention chair, and then the body was allowed then to replace him as convention chair, and then adopt the revised, agenda, even though it didn't follow proper procedures, prior to convention. But he said, he stated his, reasoning for why he felt that it was invalid, but he wasn't going to spend the entire convention arguing and fighting. And it takes a lot of will and a lot of character,
yeah,
to kind of hang up your coat in that manner, because he'd been working his butt off for, that 28 days plus prior to convention, where he didn't know what was going on.
yeah,
And to spend that amount of time and effort, and then say, for the betterment of the party, I'm going to step aside.
yeah.
Um, that's just, that's amazing. My hat's off to him, and it made my opinion of him, only rise.
Yeah.
So, after that, the body elected, a new, chair for the convention, and then they moved forward to replace those members who had resigned, which again were in violation, of, our rules and regulations. And we'll have to kind of see what happens next. It's most likely going to end up as a contested convention, and we may, have to bring on, whether it's national or whether it's bringing in, third parties, to review exactly what happened. The whole convention was recorded and live streamed, so we have a great record of, the objections that were put forward and the motions that were continued. And so it's just a matter of who's going to connect the dots, and then how that's going to impact things moving forward. Either way, it's sad, and we're doing what we need to do. It's been great to see like the numbers of new people that are joining the party. There's been great publicity on a lot of podcasts, with Angela going on Tim Pool, and we definitely are getting the word out right now. I think we're using the momentum of the national convention appropriately, and there's so many good things to focus on, but it was very hard to stay positive coming away from a convention like that, like this weekend.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's something where I have a lot of faith in the Mises Caucus community. I am. I don't think I've ever been in the Discord and ever felt like unwelcome or anything like that. Like even when I first got on there, and didn't know anybody, and like there's a channel where you can talk about music, and I put one of my songs on there. Like, well, I'm gonna try to get some feedback, and like for me, like just kind of freely handing out one of my songs like that is like really scary, because I suffer from Marty McFly syndrome, where I'm like, I can't take all the rejection, and so
most artists are like that.
Yeah, and so I put it out there, got a lot of cool feedback instantly, and it was like, dude, this song's awesome. It sounds great. Maybe fix this, and this. And it was like constructive, not to go off on a weird musical tangent about the Mises Caucus, but the point I'm making is like, it's a really good community. And I think
it is. I can't second that enough.
Yeah. And so I think that, Mises really being the more kind of loving branch of the Libertarian Party, bringing those people in, especially with Michigan. I mean, if people see how this most recent convention went, they saw how the people outside of the caucus were treating people inside of the caucus. I mean, this is something I can't stress enough. Some of the most vile, horrible things I've heard said from one libertarian to another has been a person outside of the caucus talking to somebody inside the caucus. At our last convention in March, our communications director, he's a Filipino guy. He was standing by the Mises Caucus table. He's a Mises Caucus guy. Somebody, and I won't mention who, walks up to him and is humming the German national anthem. And Connor turns around and he goes, "What are you humming?" He goes, "It's the German national anthem. I thought you would have known that one." And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Because a white dude walks up to a Filipino dude, calling the Filipino dude a Nazi. It's like, that Nazis didn't like Filipinos, right? And like,
it's not under the Aryan umbrella.
Yeah. And so it's like, I hear stories like that, and I mean, I was there right after it happened. I didn't witness it, but Connor walked out of that main room and he was just like, I can't fucking believe that, and so it's like, that's vile. I could never imagine like just being that dirty to somebody, and these are in the Mises Caucus. I've never seen anybody in the Mises Caucus do anything even remotely related to something like that. It's always been like, hey man, welcome. It's always been welcoming, and I know that this certain person that we both know about that I was sitting next to at the national convention, I guarantee you, if he came up to us and he's like, guys, I think you guys are on the right or on the right side of this, I'd like to join, I have no doubt in my mind that we'd be like, okay, cool, and the other side, they won't grant us that same thing. Have you ever been to the what is it, the Libertarian Defense Fund website?
I didn't even know that existed.
Dude, it's a great read. Go and read every page on that website. It's hilarious. I think it's libertariandefensefund.org, and they're talking about like, the Mises Caucus stole the Libertarian Party from us. Oh my God, they're so evil. And so they talk about what they're going to do when they take the party back over, and one of the first things on there is like, we will never allow Mises Caucus members back to the party. So they're purging. Oh man, what else was it? It was like every single thing that they accused us of doing, they're like, we're going to do that, So
Yeah. And again, for those that are listening, I don't want to discourage anybody, especially if you're in Michigan and you're just starting the journey of like, what is a libertarian? Is it even worth getting involved in a third party? Um, it is. And I can't say enough to your point earlier about the Mises Caucus and being as welcoming. And I mean, um, I went to I think it was the March convention, and I had only been on a few Zoom calls with a few people, and they right off the bat they were like, "We have an Airbnb. If you want to come to the convention, please come and stay with us." And like, I had brothers immediately, like, so to be accepted that quickly, and to be like, we're so glad you're here, and the welcoming, the friendliness. I know I can text anybody that I've met so far in the Mises Caucus with anything, and I'm going to get a response. Whether it's just a question or maybe a concern, or it's a great caucus to be a part of, and there's amazing people. Not to say that there's not amazing libertarians outside the caucus. I've met plenty of those as well, but we're going through kind of the terrible twos right now. Yeah. And I really hope when we get to the other side that we are going to be a much more unified party, especially at a state level, a state party, because can't we can't grow until this is all addressed. Mm-hmm. We can't preach the message. We can't this convention was supposed to be electing officers for open positions at the state level and counties, etc. That's the stuff we should be focused on. We should be knocking on doors, and unfortunately we are spending all of our efforts in, whether it's holding people accountable, whether it's trying to put out fires. It's an unfortunate time, but at the same space where it will end at some point. We will move forward. I just don't see kind of that old guard sticking around, because we're not dealing with rational individuals. Yeah. And I think that's become more and more apparent. Mm-hmm. And if you can't maintain composure and argue on facts, you're going to show your true colors, and you're going to welcome yourself out the door at some point. And you can't behave that way.
Yeah. And the contention really is the source of all the contention really is just a handful of people. It's not like the Mises Caucus versus the entire state party,
Right.
It's the Mises Caucus and the state party versus like 3 or 4 people who are
3 or 4 people
about it, and that's really all that it is.
Yeah. It's unfortunately, we're in a time where the tail's wagging the dog. Yeah. And you know what? But at the same time, it will be addressed. There will be continued discussions, and things will be reviewed, and we will get resolution in one form or another. I'm pretty confident in Andrew's abilities, and what he was able to uncover as far as what was proper and improper, and so it's just a matter of making sure that everybody is aware of that, and complete transparency. And that handful of people are going to call him a liar and scream and yell. No, I mean, they could be told, the earth is round, and show pictures, and then they're that flat earther mentality. Yeah. Like, there is nothing you can do or say or show or prove that will make me change my mind, because I'm right, you're wrong, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, again, it's emotional, and it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you coming on and giving your perspective and letting people know what's going on. Here's how I see this going. I think this is going to fire people up. I think this is going to make people want to get involved. If you're listening to this, if you're in the state of Michigan, get in contact with one of us. join the Facebook group. Start tweeting about the Mises Caucus, whatever. We'll find you and get involved. Join us. Help us save our party.
Yeah, check out. I'm sure you can throw in some contact information on the show notes, because both of us would be more than willing to answer any questions you might have, or if you want to get more involved, if you want to just put your toe in the water and attend one of our. We have a Mises Caucus Zoom meeting once a week. That's the first step. Or whether you just want to talk to some of the more of the leaders in the caucus and have some questions answered. We're all about getting this fixed and then moving forward. And I think it's an exciting time. It has to happen. We're, as a country, our backs are against the wall. We don't, that's kind of what brought my come to Jesus moment is like, I can't just sit around and do nothing anymore. Mm-hmm. And I want to impart that idea to more people in the state of Michigan who are just sick and tired of just listening to podcasts, bitching to their friends, ranting on social media. It's time to do something, and there is a place where you will be welcomed. Your skills and your talents will be made use of, and you can and will make an impact. So, I think there's unfortunately kind of a false narrative of like, I don't want to get into politics. It's going to be too consuming, or it's going to take up too much of my time, or I don't even know what I'm getting into. I made those excuses before I, got more involved. And once you get over that hill and you start meeting some people and you start having discussions like this, you're like, why did I wait so long?
Yeah.
So again, I just, anybody who's listening who wants to know more or has any questions, now's the time to ask them.
Yeah. All right. Well, dude, I'm fired up. I want to join the party again, but I already have. If I had $1,500, I'd be a lifetime member after that.
We might have another convention coming up. I have no idea exactly how things are going to flush out with the contested convention from this last weekend. Mm-hmm. So again, kind of that call to arms, like now's the time we could really use your help as far as not just as a Mises Caucus, but for the Libertarian Party. We've got a lot of great candidates for positions within Michigan that are going to be running for office, and we've got it's summertime, so we've got parades, and we've got a lot of fun events that we could definitely use help with anything. So again, if you're interested, please contact one of us, or just I think it's Libertarian Party of Michigan, and I think that there's a sign up button towards the top, and that'll go to one of the affiliate chairs, and they would definitely be more than happy to reach out with you as well. So,
all right, okay, well,
that's my soapbox moment, my attempt at preaching.
All right, well, you know what? My father's a preacher. You did a great job.
My grandfather was one as well, so I'm sure he'd be proud.
All right. Ben, thank you so much. If people want to get a hold of you or reach you, where do they do that?
You can look me up on Facebook, Ben DeJong, DeJong. I'm on Instagram, Picture This 1979. Most of that's photo stuff, but every once in a while I'll throw in a good Tom Woods or Dave Smith's quote. LinkedIn, again, Ben DeJong. And again, feel free to shoot me an email. It's ben.dejong, DeJong, @me.com. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, buddy. And I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Yep. Bye. There you guys have it. That was my interview with Ben DeJong. All right. Not Ben DeJong. That's what I mean, since the first time I saw his name, I thought it was DeJong, And so whenever, 30 seconds before I hit record, he pops up on the Zoom call, and I was like, Ben DeJong, and he's like, it's DeYoung. I was like, whoa, sorry. I've been pronouncing his name like mustard this whole time. So that's because I'm an idiot. So I don't think I've done a very good job of trying to hide that. I think you all, are pretty good at picking that up. So I really enjoyed this interview. Man, the ending there really got me fired up. I was like, yes, let's fucking do stuff. Let's go, make libertarians. Let's go bring people into the party. And yes, we absolutely should. I was fired up. You should be fired up too. If you're interested in joining the party, get in contact with me. Get in contact with Ben. I'll put links to our stuff in the show notes so that way you can reach out to us. But seriously, join the Libertarian Party. It's time. It's time to do something. The two old parties are dog shit. They're horrible. All right? You know that. I know that. Let's just call a spade, So, anyway, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. If you want to find me on TikTok, my handle is @AndyCoons. It's KOONS. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's @Andy_Coons, KOONS. Merch in the link tree, stuff in the show notes, all that good stuff. Thank you. I love you.